Thank you for listening to the Mujeres Create podcast. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Mujeres Create podcast. Thank you again for joining me on this 10-part series, Behind the Success. Today's episode is called God Had Bigger Plans, the rejection that led to a better job. Yes, that's right. So, this episode is about that time that I was ready to move on from Telemundo and NBC. So I had been in my account executive role in Chicago for close to 6 years. And in that role, I learned so much. I grew so much. We're talking about almost being entry level. 2 years into my career, I ended up getting a role that had a lot of responsibilities, driving sales, working with clients, traveling. The responsibility increased significantly in a very short amount of time. I was helping the Chicago office build a client base, and that came with a lot of challenges. And obviously, most of it was just myself getting out of my comfort zone and really growing into a salesperson and in my career. So, that role helped me grow significantly. And, especially being in Chicago, a new city where I had to make new friends and network. The challenges were definitely there, but most of it, the learning was the biggest takeaway. But anyways, almost 6 years into it, I was ready for a change. I loved working at the company. I loved my team. I loved everything I was doing for Telemundo. At that time, Telemundo was growing digitally. It was becoming a production hub of telenovelas, and we were finally competing more significantly against Univision. Univision has always been the biggest network in the US for Spanish-speaking audiences. At that point, Telemundo has started to create their own productions in the US and Colombia and some other countries. So they were definitely becoming like a bigger competitor for Univision through original content. So we had a significant amount of momentum. As salespeople, we definitely had better content to sell, a better rating story. So everything was just going really well from a product perspective. Digitally too, we had an amazing digital team, and we were the pioneers in the space of putting our telenovelas on digital platforms, driving people to telemundo.com and experiencing content there. We were truly some of like pioneers in the space. So from that perspective, things were going very well. But for me internally, I had been at the company for almost 8 years. So think about from my internship to sales assistant, sales planner, account executive, that span of time was about 8 years. And I was kind of feeling an itch of, what else is next. I definitely love the company. I love the people, but something internally was telling me that it was time for a change. And so I did not know what that meant. It was very intimidating to leave a company where you have stability, where you have really good people around you, where things are working out so well. But when that internal message is telling you, hey, knock, knock, it's time for a change, what do you do? So I forget where I saw this job posting for an account executive at Yahoo. It was a digital account executive role. I don't know where I found it. Maybe it was LinkedIn. I can't remember. But, anyways, I see this post and I'm like, oh my God, Yahoo. My first email was from Yahoo. I think when I was in college, my first email was there from there. And I'm like, I wonder what you sell at Yahoo. Like, that sounds interesting. Digital account executive in the Chicago office. Let me apply for this role. And I applied for the role. I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea how to position myself as a digital seller. I had no idea what Yahoo even sold. Obviously, they have a lot of news and entertainment, but again, my mind was always like wrapped around video content, telenovelas, premium video. So I'm like, what would Yahoo sell? So I started like researching and looking into it. Anyways, I apply for the job. I get an interview with the head of sales at the time. This was now 2011. I get an interview with the head of sales, someone he was such a great, uh, compassionate, kind, inclusive, amazing human being. And I get this interview and I'm like, oh my God, this sounds really like a cool opportunity. This sounds like something I could really do. And then I get a second interview, a third interview, a fourth interview. And, at this point, I'm meeting the whole entire team. I'm just kind of getting more excited and more into the opportunity. I'm just envisioning myself working there. I go into their offices in Chicago. I kind of like start to think, oh my God, this feels like a place that I could really work. This is sounding really cool. And I'm just investing more and more. I took so much time to learn about digital sales, positioning Yahoo, how to position myself. I created various presentations, like pitching myself to them. I, prior to this interview, I had only been interviewing with people that I knew because I worked at the company for 8 years. So when I went from assistant to planner, it was people that I knew. When I went from planner to AE, the second episode is all about that experience. It's people that I already knew. So in a way, I was not really putting myself out there externally, out of my comfort zone. This was the first time that I was doing that. I was externally positioning myself for a new role. I was meeting people that I had never met before. I was emailing people that I had never met before. I was learning the whole process from scratch, reaching out to people for an interview, uh, sending thank you notes after the interview, putting a presentation together for people that I've never met. It was truly like a whole new process for me. And that, definitely meant, just doing things the best way that I could. And, again, my mentors really came to assist in this process too, and giving me advice on ways to position myself, ways to pitch, how I would do the job, a 30, 60, 90 plan. I mean, I did it all for that role. I kind of went all out for the role. I think I got myself a few new suits. I would really showed up and showed out. And, the people that I interviewed with at Yahoo, a lot of them were Latinos. I think, no, sorry, like two of the people were Latino. And then the rest were like other executives that were part of the company. And the process itself was very friendly, very approachable. I felt like I could be myself. I felt like, again, I really saw myself in that position. I really saw myself working there and excelling. The one thing that held me back was my digital experience. In my account executive role at Telemundo, I was really mostly selling television. I was kind of like selling digital packages too, because we would do like a telenovela premiere that would be primarily television based, focused, with some digital components. So, I was kind of dabbling in digital, but I didn't really know the language. I didn't really know the technology part. I didn't know the delivery, the performance. I didn't know the audience. So it's definitely not an area that I was very fluent in. And, I guess that showed in the interview. And I was very transparent about my lack of digital experience. But, anyways, the whole process was super friendly, approachable. I had nothing but good things to say about the people that I interviewed with. And then after several weeks of being in that interview process, I got the rejection email. We're moving forward with another candidate that has digital experience, but we think you have a lot of potential. And we think that, if you were to learn digital, you would do really well in the future. Sorry, it didn't work out. Um, when I got the rejection email, I have to say that I was very surprised. Again, because the process had gone so well and I had gotten so well with everybody that I interviewed with. And I really thought that I did a great job positioning myself. And learning everything that I needed to learn to have those conversations in a meaningful way. So getting that rejection, and now that I was just so invested in like, okay, I'm transitioning from television to digital, I was just devastated. I'm like, why? Like, I don't understand how this happened. I don't understand why. Like, if they just taught me, if they just trained me, I would just know everything, how to do everything. Like, I've proven myself time and time again. I was being very hard on myself after that rejection. But regardless, we ended it on a really good note. A few weeks later, I ended up grabbing lunch with the head of sales and just learning more about what they're doing. And I understood, obviously every manager has their own reasons for saying yes or no to people, and sometimes those reasons have nothing to do with you. And so that process again was one of those times in my career where I was kind of like, wow, I guess I'm not as good as I think I am. Or maybe I guess, I'm not as lucky in these things as I thought I am. I guess it is rough out there. Maybe I shouldn't be looking into leaving NBC. Maybe I should just stay longer and enjoy this role that I have. And so I went back to normal work. I never mentioned anything to anyone about that whole process besides my mentors. And but inside of me, I'm like, I wonder if digital is really what I need to do. I wonder if this is an area that I really need to look into. Like something stayed inside of me. And I just kind of went on and thinking, okay, what is my next role? I definitely feel like it's time for a change. Let's try to figure out what that is. Um, a few weeks or maybe a month or two into that whole situation, one day I'm sitting at my desk, and I think I was just having like lunch and eating, or maybe not. Maybe I was just like killing time. I'm watching a video that a coworker sends me. And, the video was like a Modern Family clip on Hulu. And at that time, Modern Family was super popular. And at that time, I think Modern Family was one of the first shows that Hulu was able to get on their platform. So I'm watching this clip and I'm like laughing and enjoying it because I'm a huge Modern Family fan. And I'm like, Hulu, oh my God, this sounds like a really cool company to work for. They had TV shows from different networks, they had all this content available to you on your computer, on your TV. And I'm just like, this sounds super interesting. I would love to work for a company like that. This sounds like something I would love to do. Like, I wish I could end up at a company like that. I left it there. I never looked into jobs, never looked into anything. I was just it's just like a thought that came to my mind. And I'm like, this sounds really cool. Wow. Whoever works there must be so lucky. A few weeks later, I am on LinkedIn and I get a message from this head of sales at Hulu. I mean, it's like you can't make this up. I get a message saying, hey, we're launching a Latino platform on Hulu, and we would love to interview you for the role, account executive at Hulu Latino. And I'm just like, what? I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? How is this possible? And I'm like, immediately, yes, yes, yes. I would love to interview for this role. And very quickly, he sets up several interviews with one with a recruiter, HR, with him in person in Chicago, with, sorry, virtually. He was in New York, I was in Chicago, so he set up the first meeting virtually. Then after that first meeting, I get to meet the head of sales for the whole Hulu company, and I get to meet him in Chicago. I get to meet the Chicago sales manager too. I remember that was such a windy day. It was crazy, like the weather was insane. But I get all these interviews like back to back very quickly. And, that first conversation that I had with the head of sales, the person who would be my manager, I was flowing as if I've been doing this forever. It was such a great conversation that I had with him. It just felt so natural. It felt so mine, like the opportunity felt like something that was already mine. And it just felt like this is why. Yahoo didn't work out. Like it started to feel that way. But, coming from a rejection, I didn't want to get too excited, but it just really felt like, wow, this is truly an incredible opportunity. And, after those interviews, I got the acceptance letter that um, I was getting hired to be the account executive for Hulu Latino. And part of that opportunity meant moving back to New York City because that's where my manager was. The opportunity for the Latino business would be focused out of New York. This is where New York City is typically the place where the biggest sales teams are based. And so my manager wanted me to be there. So I was offered this role. I had to leave Telemundo. I had to leave 8 years of amazing work and company. I had to move back to New York City, leave behind my beautiful apartments in Chicago, and wrapping my head around that was really cool. I felt like, what have I done? Like, how can I be so lucky? Is this really the right thing to do? Am I making the right decision? Like all these doubts were setting in. And, when you have to leave a company that knows you for so long, that has nurtured your talent for so long, that has given you so much, it's really hard to make that decision. So, I don't think I felt like I felt excited for sure, but I think I was mostly scared of the opportunity. But anyways, we'll get into negotiation of that particular role, negotiation of how that opportunity panned out for me financially and all these other things. But this episode is really about understanding that rejection is always redirection towards something better, especially now, where we are in corporate, where so many people are getting laid off from jobs that they've had for so long. People are struggling to find roles that pays well, that honors their experience, honors their talent. People are knocking on doors and not necessarily getting an answer. uh, People apply to roles and never hear from recruiters. It's truly has become very challenging to find new jobs. People that are in roles looking for new roles, new companies is very hard. People have gotten laid off looking to find new jobs. It's been very difficult. So I know that a lot of us are now dealing with that rejection, right? Dealing with combating feelings of, am I not good enough? Do I not have the right experience? Have I not, you know, have I not, like, do I not stand out as much as I should? Am I not the right candidate? Like we're all combating a lot of those feelings, right? So, as I was reflecting on this job, I definitely felt like something was wrong with me when I didn't get the job. But truly, I just believe that in our life, when things don't work out, is because God has bigger plans for us that we're not able to see right in that moment, but that show up eventually. And then you realize and you put all the pieces together, all of the pieces of the puzzle, you put it together. So that was the case in this job. And, for anyone that is struggling to find new jobs, that keep getting rejection after rejection after rejection, how can you find yourself, thinking differently, reframing those thoughts of, maybe I'm not good enough, maybe, I'm not worth it, maybe I need to learn more, maybe I need to go back to school. How can you reframe some of that and, just move towards, maybe there are bigger plans for me, maybe there are other things that I'm meant to be doing. So we'll go into the lessons of this episode. The first lesson is, treat every interview as an opportunity to practice and make valuable connections. So yes, the interviews at Yahoo, I had like maybe 5 interviews. were definitely a huge practice for me. It was the first time that I was putting myself out there. So maybe I didn't do things perfectly, or maybe I made some mistakes. But I promise you, by the fifth interview, I got better. And then by the time that the Hulu opportunity came by, I was way better than I was on that first Yahoo interview, because then I knew about the types of questions that were coming my way. And it's an opportunity to practice, for you to just get better and better and better, even when the answer is no at the end. And also, another thing that came out of that is that I started to create a new network in the digital space. So all the people that I interviewed with, I connected with them on LinkedIn. I sent thank you notes. I ended up working with one of them a few years later at iHeartMedia, and we were laughing about the whole interview and the rejection and all of that. So, it's an opportunity to create a new network. Why not? Stay friends, connect. And down the line, there may be opportunities that maybe you are suited for. So those are the opportunities that come out of that, right? And the second lesson is, the job that is truly meant for you will always be aligned with your highest purpose. So this is a little bit hard to understand, but especially when you're just getting rejection after rejection, you know, that job at Yahoo was probably not what I was meant to be doing. The amount of joy, fulfillment, purpose, and growth that I experienced at Hulu, I don't think I would have been able to at Yahoo. And that Hulu experience really led me to many, many bigger jobs at Google, iHeartMedia. And so you have to believe that that rejection is probably because it's not really aligned with your purpose or where you are headed, your path. So just trust in that. I trusted in that. And I can tell you that, yes, it's true. Lesson number 3: when a door closes, it's not always a reflection of you. Sometimes it's a reflection of them, right? What I mean by that is, we're always putting the blame on us, right? We're the ones that got rejected. We're the ones that were told, you don't have the experience. I don't know, like, we're looking for something different. Maybe you're too senior, like all the excuses that we get when we don't get a job, right? And we always put the blame on us. We always kind of think it's my fault. I should have done better. But sometimes it's not really about you. Sometimes it's about the team, them. Sometimes it's about, they need to hire someone from within. Sometimes they really do need someone desperately to step into the role and, get going right away, because sales, there's a lot of pressure. And sometimes they are like, I don't want to take time to train anyone for a few months. I want someone that hits the ground running, that has digital contacts, that can just like drive sales right away. Sometimes, they don't see the vision, they don't see your potential, they don't see where you can go. If they wanted to invest in my talent, in myself, and they said, you know what, this person needs a lot of work, but I see potential, I see the vision, I'm willing to invest. If they had that type of mentality, they would have hired me. But sometimes they don't have that vision. Sometimes you have the vision, they don't. And that's okay. So, when you're getting that rejection, try not to put the blame on you. Definitely work on yourself, prepare yourself, believe in yourself, but don't put the blame on you, because sometimes it's not about you. The fourth lesson is, what is meant for you will not pass you by. This manager that hired me at Hulu told me, I'm like, how did you even find me? And he said, well, when I was looking for someone that had Spanish language TV experience, I went into a former colleague's LinkedIn profile and I started looking through his contacts, and you came up. And when I looked at you, when I looked at your name, when I looked at your experience, he said, I knew immediately that you were the person I was looking for. I had not invested time in being on LinkedIn. I was not posting, liking, commenting, sharing. I was not doing any of that. I literally just had a profile with my experience on there. And he said, I found you through somebody else. And so I didn't have to apply for any job. I didn't have to tell anyone, hey, recommend me. He found me. And you have to believe that these opportunities are out there for you. And sometimes you don't have to do anything. Sometimes you really just have to create a profile on LinkedIn and just be available, be on there. We talk about, um, obviously trying really hard and like putting an effort. And sometimes that effort is just like, hey, am I active on LinkedIn or Indeed, or am I activated on my network? Sometimes it's just like showing up, and then people will find you. Lesson number 5: let rejection fuel your vision to dream bigger than you ever thought possible. So, something that happens often when we get rejected is that, our self esteem is really affected. We start thinking, what can I do better? If we see rejection as an opportunity to think bigger and to dream bigger and to say, you know what, it didn't work out in that company, but maybe it's because I'm meant to go to a better company, to a better place where my talents are recognized, appreciated, and celebrated. Think bigger, reframe it. Why not? You have nothing to lose. When I was watching that video on Hulu, I said, hmm, what if this company hires me? It would be so cool to work there. I mean, did I think I had the experience to work at a place like Hulu? No. Did I think I was even ever going to work there? Probably not. But I thought it anyway, because why not? So use every rejection as an opportunity to reframe, rethink, and just go after bigger things. I hope this was helpful. Please share with your network, with anyone that is maybe feeling a little bit down because they've been rejected a few times. Anyone looking to find a new job, anyone looking to think bigger, anyone looking for an uplifting message, just share the love. Thank you again, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you for listening to the Mujeres Create podcast. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and don't forget to share the wisdom with other mujeres.